I'm going to show R22 sensitivity for the Fieldpiece DR58 leak detector. You'll see the display there. I got my reference, 10 parts per million R22. This leak detector's got a strange property to it where it's not as squirrely as the SRL2. It uses the same diode that the 2 uses and also that the Navic uses, which I'll be testing next. But it seems like on a scale from 0, or doing a 1 and a 2, it's definitely breath sensitive, just that far away. See, I kicked it up to 15. So you definitely gotta hold your breath, keep your breath away, especially in drier weather. But just checking things that are not leaking, like I know my laptop is not leaking. I know the tape measure is not leaking. Right there, I got a little bit. You can't really go by if you see a couple little hits that you have a leak. You're gonna have to be consistent, maybe see some bigger numbers besides a 1 and a 2. Because this thing seems to, I can get into the parts per billion and I'll still get a 1 and a 2. And it just doesn't seem reliable there. So I'm gonna do a cutoff of about 3. Anything less than a 3 on that screen is just, it's just a leak detector being a little overly sensitive, because coils are going to be wet and it's going to be really hard to distinguish between the humidity and the actual leak on a wet coil. So, alright, here we go. Now 10 parts per million, R22. So it kicked it up to about 20. Now half air, 50 cc's of air. Mix up my mixture. Let's do 5 parts per million. That took it up to about a 10. Actually, I got 12 on the last run. Now I'm going to go down to 40. I'm going to suck in air. Let's go down to 2 parts per million. Now this diode that it uses are much more sensitive on 410, which I'll show that on the next one. Hold my breath here. So now we're at 2 parts per million. I had 7 on my last run. And now 1 part per million. So it only went up to a 3 on 1 part per million. Now if I go to 1/10 part per million, 10 times more sensitive, I'm still going to get a 3 there. So I'm not really trusting this thing on super tiny. Now give me a 1. I'll write that in there. Now I'm going to do 10 parts per billion with a B. And it still sets it off. I can get almost to parts per trillion, but I don't think that's a useful number. See, I can get that thing to tick, and I tried to rule out if it's my finger. It definitely likes fingers. So my finger takes it to an 8 or 9. And I know my finger's not leaking. And it's probably the humidity evaporating off of my skin. Because if I rub my finger and then I test the spot, it's not the oils from my finger. It's just the humidity. So it's going to be really hard to distinguish a leak from just humidity changes. So I would call this 1 parts per million for R22.